Katie Ledecky, everybody. Backstage, she asked me if I'd ever done this before, and the honest answer is no. I've never been on this stage interviewing anybody, let alone the most decorated American woman in Olympics history. There's the... And that is an honor that you achieved this year in Paris. In addition to that, what a year it's been. There's the Presidential Medal of Freedom in the spring, highest civilian honor. And then a New York Times bestseller. For people at the 92nd Street Y, that's a very big deal. So how are you feeling about this year?
I'm feeling great. This is one thing I was really excited about because, I am talking quite a bit these days and have been here in New York for a few days. But this is really special because I have friends here from pretty much all areas of my life, from when I first started swimming, from the Palisades Porpoises to Stanford teammates, to my club swimming teammates, to a lot of family. So just so many people here. Thank you all for coming out, and I hope some of you have enjoyed the book so far, and I hope some of you will read it the next couple of weeks.
So I think it'd be apropos to begin in Paris, which is the one Olympics not covered in the book, and linger for a moment on that 1500, which followed, I think you won a bronze or a silver in a race prior to that, and people were like, oh, was that an upset? Has she lost something? This is her fourth Olympics, so there's, the media likes to, speculate. And yet again, in that 1500, there is such an astounding lead at the end that you have to take the big overhead shot of you finishing first, 10 seconds ahead of the rest of the world. And they're trying real hard. We were talking backstage, you were defying the order and direction of the universe. You're supposed to get slower. How are you doing that?
Well, I just don't get slower. I've put in a lot of work. I've put in a lot of work all these years. I learned from each year, and it's not even necessarily about the results for me. I think from London onward, I got really great advice in 2012 at my first Olympics from many of the veterans to enjoy the journey. Don't focus too much on the end result. And I really just kind of dove back into training after my first gold and started just loving the training more and more each year to this day. So I think the results that I've seen in Paris, the years between London and now, I think it's just a result of the work that I've put in, the people that have supported me. I don't think I would enjoy the sport as much if I was doing it in a lane by myself every single day. It's the teammates I have around me, the coaches, and I think that's what the book captures, all the different people that have supported me along this journey.
Yeah, all the family. Mm-hmm. The grandparents, mom, dad, your brother, it's all in here. A lot of the technical stuff is in here too, the strategy behind swimming, the training. We were talking backstage about what I see as these two big leaps in your career, and I think the first one is the 10 years between little 6-year-old Katie Ledecky, can't swim straight, runs into the lane, dad's got the camcorder, you finish second. 10 years later, not only do you have an Olympic gold medal as a 15-year-old, but that following year, you set 2 world records, 800 and 1500. Take me back to being 6.
Well, some of you in the room knew me when I was 6. The Palisades people in the room would probably remember some of those days where I was swimming a 25 free at my first meet, and I would take 3 strokes, grab the lane line, wipe my nose, take 2 strokes, grab the other lane line, wipe my nose, take a breath. I didn't know how to breathe yet in freestyle. And the girl right next to me was doing the exact same thing. So it was just a race of who did it the fewest number of times, who stopped the fewest number of times. So my very first goal when I was 6 years old was to finish the summer being able to swim a 25 free without stopping. And I actually got swimmer's ear before the last meet. My mom took me to the doctor. He said she shouldn't swim. And I was pretty upset. I don't know if I was crying or what it was. And he said, okay, she can swim. Just put a swim cap on her. I got my first swim cap. I think it had a frog on the side. And I got to swim the 25 free, made it across the pool, got a hot chocolate afterwards. It was raining that day. And yeah, that was my first goal. And ever since then, I've been setting these goals for myself, bigger and bigger. You know, it was not a dream of mine at age 6 to make it to the Olympics. I don't know if I can pinpoint an exact date when I made it a goal to win a gold medal, to make the Olympics. It was really very close to the day that it actually happened that I felt like it could really, really happen.
Well, if I may, I have a copy of the book here, and you do pinpoint a date, in fact.
Not an actual date, but it was the fall of 2011, leading into 2012, the Olympics. I sat down with my coach, Yuri. Some of you were coached by Yuri. And he said, Katie, what would be the ultimate goal at Olympic trials? And I was pretty quiet back then, not very communicative with my coach. And I said, oh, I don't know. I don't know. And he said, Katie, what would be the ultimate goal at Olympic trials? And I said, oh, make the Olympic team. And he said, yeah, say it again. I said, make the Olympic team. He said, we don't have to talk about it anymore this year, but that's the goal. You're capable. He was basically telling me that that's a realistic goal. So I tell that story in the book. That's the date I would pinpoint as the date that I set that goal. But even then, I would say I didn't 100% believe it could happen until I started making those steps that year.
Yeah, and your parents tried to protect you from the weight of those expectations. Becoming a teenager, realizing you're good and you can go a long way with this, it's also the time in a person's life where you start to have social temptation, let's call it, right? Other people are going out, they're drinking, they're smoking, they're in cars, well, you know. This is a great bit of the book here, actually. This is part of her superpower. She writes very early on that swimming demands payment from every corner of your life. I went to bed early. I used my weekends to do homework. I ate the right things, not the fun things. I rarely wavered. But I didn't see this as a burden. I saw it as an opportunity. Where did you learn that?
I don't know where I learned it. I think the person I learned it from was my brother. He was 3 years older than I am, and he was along the swimming journey with me. I feel like he still is. And he was just somebody I always looked to for how to work hard in school, how to work hard at swim practice, work hard in every aspect of life. And so I saw him putting in his hours behind his books for school, going to swim practice. He often had the earlier morning swim practice. I would usually tag along with my mom before my practice started an hour later. So I saw him practice. I saw the work that it took kind of at that next level growing up. So I think I always looked to him for that, and I think a lot of people can see some of those things as sacrifices, and sure, there could have been some things that would have been fun to attend, like prom or homecoming, that I had to miss out on just because I had a swim meet the next week, or I just felt like I wanted to prioritize swimming. Certainly, if I wanted to go to some of those things, I probably would have, but I wanted to make sure I was ready for my swim meet. I was getting my homework done in advance, and looking back on it, I think I've learned so many lessons from swimming. The time management, the looking ahead, the dedication, the adaptability, things I learned during the COVID times, having to adjust your plan. So many lessons from age 6 to now, and that's what I love about this sport.
She does go to one school dance her sophomore year. I will say no more. You'll have to buy the book.
You can read about that.
It's in there. It's in there. Hearing you talk about swimming, it's very evident that you love it. It's not just a thing that's giving you time management. It's something that you deeply love. I mean, the title alone, Just Add Water. The house lights are bright, so I can't see, but I'm willing to guess that many of the faces out here are young, maybe have little goggle marks around them for practice earlier today.
Can you see mine? They're fading since I haven't been in the water quite as much.
So they love swimming too, and I wonder if you could put into words what it is you love.
I put it into words in the book,
well,
but I will explain. Yes, there are so many things about the water I love. I love diving into the pool. I love the rush that you feel when it's a little bit cold in the morning and the water warms you up. I love the feeling of laughing on the pool deck with my teammates while we're stretching. I'm somebody that has always gotten to practice early, so I do a lot of chatting on the pool deck, a lot of goofing around before practice. We still do that at age 27. I have some teammates that are my age, and we goof off and tell stories and laugh about random things. So I love those things. I love, again, the things that I've learned from the sport, the things I've learned from being in the water, just through the ups and downs of the sport. Not every day is a gold medal day for me. You guys see it on TV, but I promise you, I hurt some days. I struggle some days. So just the lessons I've learned from that, and those are things that I think apply so much to life out of the water. And I think I'm always going to be in the water, but I'm not always going to be competing. So I know that those things will serve me well in the future.
I think the second big leap in your career, so there's that first one from age 6, little kid having fun, to Olympic champion and record holder. For a lot of people, that's it, that's the arc. But then you have this whole second life where you take your world record in the 800 and the 1500, and you shave off something like 9 seconds over the course of the next 8 years or so off the 800 time, and 15 or 20 seconds, a lot of time, off of the 1500. No one is even approaching you. You have the 20 best times ever in these categories. So what is the focus or the regiment like to go from already the best ever to beating yourself?
Again, a lot of work and a lot of goal setting. In 2014, I set my goals for Rio in 2016, and at the time when I sat down with my coach, Bruce, at the time, I think the goals that we set in the 800, it was to go 8:05 or faster in the 800 free. At that time, I believe my world record was 8:11 when we set that goal, so 6 seconds. And then in the 400 free, it was to go 3:56 or faster. And at that time, I think I was 3:58 high, so 2 seconds. And we talked about these goals. I wrote them down on my pool buoy that I saw every day at practice. And what I think, looking back at that, we didn't even have to talk about the goal is to win a gold medal. It's the goal, I'm very time focused. The goal, these times, they're out there. And I knew in my head that there's no chance anyone in the world has these goals for these times because they are so much faster than the world records. So that motivated me so much. It made me believe in the goals, to know that my coach also believed that I could do that. Yeah. And I think having those numbers written on my pool buoy motivated me every day at practice. So those 4 years between London and Rio, chasing those ambitious goals, that's probably the best lesson in goal setting that I have, the best just straight up, I set these goals, I met them to a T, and looking back at them, they were ambitious, but I believed, and I got it done. And that's something that I try to remember when I set my goals. Every goal that I've set since then, I've remembered that. I've remembered the lessons I learned from that about believing in the goal, writing it down in some cases, not feeling like it's too ambitious, and chasing something that feels exciting to you. It doesn't have to be a goal that somebody else sets. Now that I am a record holder, sometimes people like to set goals for you or write articles about, oh, she must be chasing this, or she must be chasing that, or if she wins this medal, she'll become the most decorated this or the most decorated that. And to me, it's always been stay focused on your goals, stay focused on these times, and the rest will take care of itself.
All right, here's a little interlude question, not about Olympic swimming, but about why, and this is in the book, but please share it with our audience, you don't like swimming in the ocean.
I do not. I do not like open water swimming. I did have one open water race. Again, Coach Yuri, had everyone in our group do this one open water race, because you never know until you try, right? And I was kind of leaning more toward the distance swimming route. So I said, all right, I'm gonna give it a try. I'm required to do this. And I did not like it. I think I was 9 or 10 years old. It was a pretty short race as open water races go. And it was in, I think, Pohick Bay in Maryland. And I very clearly remember them saying, if you want to get out, just go on your back and wave us down, wave the people in the boat down. And within the first 20 strokes, I very seriously considered it. But I got through it. I did it. And then I said no more. I'm not interested in any more of these races.
But you grew up in Maryland. I grew up in Maryland and Florida, where you now live. Both of these places have wonderful shores and wonderful beaches.
Yes, but swim. Florida also has the gators, and there are sharks places, and there are jellyfish, and I'm not discouraging anyone out there, any young swimmer. It is a great sport. I have great friends that are open water swimmers. Actually, my coach, Bruce, his son was a world champion open water swimmer. So I tell people, if I was ever going to do open water swimming, it would have been when I was being coached by Bruce.
But do you ever just go in there and go body surfing?
No, I do not like that water. I never really grew up going to the beach a lot, and so I never really got comfortable with that. I stick with the pool. If there's a beach and then there's a nice pool you can just hang out by, I pick the pool.
All right. That interlude is over. We're back to the Olympics. One of the most breathtaking paragraphs in the whole book, and something I think young swimmers will be really interested in, is what you describe as your superpower, which is this ability, once you're on the blocks, is that right? On the blocks, about to race, you say, my superpower is my ability to instantly channel every single molecule into what I need to do down a 2.5 meter lane of water. You call it your on-off. And that when you're done, you're different. But for that moment, you're on. Did someone tell you to try that? Did you just find it inside one day? Like, is it a strategy?
No, I think it sometimes surprises people when they meet me, and I am smiley. I've been smiling a lot lately, and here, and that's just my personality. I'm a pretty happy, joyful person, I would say. So when I walk out for the races and I'm stone cold, goggles on, not waving to the camera, I'm like, I got to get to my lane. I got to focus. I'm just zeroed in on my lane, and I don't know if one person taught me that. I think I had a lot of great coaches growing up, and a lot of great swimmers that I could watch growing up. But it's not like I was really imitating anyone in particular. It was just, I gotta get in there and race. Yeah.
When it comes to getting in there and racing, you're very open in the book, in this whole chapter about technique, about how difficult it is. 800 and 1500 meters are agonizing endurance races, and you feel pain, and your body says stop, and your body says, why are you doing this? I'm sure people in the audience, whether they swim just for fun, just for exercise, or they're young and they're competing and they're trying to go someplace with it, also feel that and struggle with it. Do you have advice for how to turn off your brain, as you say, become clear?
I think whenever I get asked by young distance swimmers for advice or for how to improve, or maybe they're even a sprinter and they want to get better at the distance races, I think the best advice I have is to just keep doing more and more of the distance races. I think you learn a lot from experience, because I feel like now, so many years into my career, I have so many tricks up my back pocket that I learned from racing, I learned from training. So I do different things in different races. I often get asked the question, what are you thinking about during these long races? Well, it's a long answer, because it can be one thing one race and one thing another race. Sometimes it's a song that's stuck in my head. Sometimes I'm just counting the laps, 50, 100, 150, 200. Sometimes I'm thinking about the laps and thinking about my technique. And then when I hit the point where I'm starting to hurt, it might be kind of a cramp in my side, or my arms might get tired, or my legs might feel like they can't do anything. They don't always do. Everyone always tells me I don't kick. I'm sure that's the question some of you have, where they watch my distance races and they say, oh, it doesn't look like you kick. Why aren't you kicking? Well, I'm keeping my legs up, but my legs do get tired in races, even when I'm not kicking. So, it could be my arms, it could be my legs, and at that moment, I have to decide, that voice in my head has to decide what to think about. And at that point, I think about family, I think about teammates, I think about friends. That's one option. Another option is to try not to think about anything. And then another option would be to start breaking down the race in different ways. So I might hit the 1100 point of the 1500, and that's 400 meters left. So instead of counting up, I might start counting down. So I'll say I've got 850s left, and then 7, and then 6. So I kind of mix it up that way.
If anyone feels like they cannot do that, none of those options
You have to just keep trying. That's what I'm saying. You have to just keep going for it, and you'll learn.
But you might not be able to do it because you are not the child of Mary Jen. Am I saying the last name correctly? Because your mom was an incredible swimmer. And not only was she incredible as a swimmer, but you found some old clippings of hers. She was a collegiate swimmer, and she's interviewed by various journalists in the 70s, was it? And she says almost exactly what you're saying right now. You seem to have inherited all of it.
All of her genes. Well, I'm very lucky to have a great mom and dad. My mom swam in college. If you read the book, you'll learn all about my grandparents. But my mom's parents wanted to make sure that all of their kids learned how to swim, and many of them swam on teams through high school. My mom went off and swam in college, and was very fortunate that she taught me how to swim, how to float. And then once I joined the team, my parents were very good about letting it be our thing. My brother and I, we could swim if we wanted to, we could play basketball if we wanted to, piano lessons, anything that we were interested in, we could pursue. And it's not like my mom forced swimming on me because she was a swimmer, and I'm very grateful for that.
One of the, I think, unintentionally reassuring and actually quite inspiring parts of the book is after 3 Olympics, you move to Florida and you start working with the head coach there, Coach Nessie, and you're already Katie Ledecky at that point. You're already a really big deal. And you say that he tells you that your stroke which has already set multiple world records, is choppy and inefficient.
Well, I felt like there was some room for improvement, and I think he could tell that I wanted to improve. I had this great desire to improve over the next 3 years from Tokyo to Paris, and his big thing is always to feel comfortable with your stroke. He calls it Katie's happy stroke, KHS. So he always asks me, "Are you happy?" And then, "How's your stroke? Are you happy with your stroke?" So that's been a main focus of ours the last 3 years. It'll continue. Because if you feel like something's a little off, you've got to try to fix it. So we've been trying to work on certain things, and it's great to work with a coach who has a good eye that can motivate you and not let you rest on your laurels. I mean, you want to continue to always try to improve.
Yeah. We're getting close to the point where we'll have questions from you all, so things that we're not touching on, please help us out here. I do want to touch on something that, there's a lot in the book that is a world within swimming that I would never know just watching the Olympics on TV. Little things like the swim caps are all white in the prelims, and then you wear the black one in the finals.
For Team USA,
For Team USA, yeah. The availability that you have to provide to the anti-doping regulators just for testing at any given time. You're going to the grocery store, you let them know.
They know I'm here. They could walk through that door and say they want to test me.
What? That is wild.
Yep. Well, it's part of the sport, and it's what I sign up for as an elite athlete. I'm happy to do that. And there are a lot of little things in the sport that the swimmers out there probably know and appreciate, and then and there are some other things in the sport that everyone probably knows. But
the reason I bring up
try to touch on a little bit of everything in the book.
The reason I bring up the drug testing thing is because on the morning show we were laughing, I'll put it bluntly, at the description of some of the Chinese swimmers for why they had failed a drug test, and the explanation was something had been misplaced in the kitchen and put into the soup they had. As though it's like paprika, cumin, salt, pepper, dope, and it's like, it's weird. It didn't make sense to us. And it seems to me like the drug testing that USA Swimming does is a bit like climate change policy. It really doesn't, America can be on top of its game with it, but if the rest of the world is not on top of its game with it, it's not a fair system, and it's not going to get anyone where they're trying to go. So is it frustrating for you, with all the work you put in, all the testing you undergo, to be aware that there are countries out there that don't do it like that, and who probably, most likely, are cheating at least a little bit?
Well, I mean, I'm tested by the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency and World Aquatics. The World Anti-Doping Agency is the agency that oversees everything. And what was frustrating about this past year, some of the news that came out was, there were these positive cases, these positive tests, and the World Anti-Doping Agency is supposed to enforce the rules that they have for everyone around the world. And what it seems like should have happened would be a provisional suspension that's in their own code. And so it's frustrating if those rules were not followed by the very organization that set those rules. So it's not about one country, it's not about certain swimmers. I just want an even playing field as much as we can. There's a whole chapter in the book titled Rules. I talk about things from anti-doping to disqualifications. I'm very proud of the fact that I have not been DQ'd since I was age 6. At my first year-round.
A lot of rule followers here.
I am a rule follower. At age 6, my first year-round club swim meet, it was called the Pilgrim Pentathlon. You swim the 25 free, the 25 breast, the 25 back, the 25 fly, and the 100 IM. I DQ'd in the breaststroke, butterfly, and IM. The breaststroke and the butterfly, it was for not doing the kick properly. And in the IM, it was for not doing the kick properly in the breaststroke and the butterfly. So actually, now that I'm saying it out loud, I think I've always had a kicking problem. But I have to say that after that first swim meet, I don't believe I've ever been DQ'd. So I think that's a pretty good streak I have going. That might be my best
streak.
Here
we go. On the subject of streaks, LA 2028, the Olympics, they're coming here to America. You carried the flag in the closing ceremony for Team USA. Well done. You are aiming to compete in 2028. You are just, I think, one gold medal away from being the most decorated woman of any country in any sport in Olympics history.
You tell me, I don't know.
It's true, it's
okay.
true. How are you preparing? I mean, have you begun to prepare, or is it still chill time? It's got to be chill time, right? You're like...
It's chill time right now, and but I kind of consider that part of preparing because I think this is a good chance to take a breath after Paris. This past cycle, it was only 3 years between Tokyo and Paris. So now we're kind of back to our more normal 4-year lead up to the next Olympics. So I want to make sure I take a nice little break right now, and then I'll probably be back into training end of October, early November is what I'm thinking now. And that is the longest break I've ever taken, probably.
Did you feel any, you talk at one point in the book about after a season when you've achieved so much and there's that quiet, it can be kind of deflating, right? Counterintuitively, it can be harder to deal with the quiet parts than it is the busy parts. How do you deal with the quiet? You seem to have no chill, so tell me about your chill.
Well, I think what you're referring to is, sometimes after my last race in Olympics or World Championships, I kind of get a little emotional right in the moment as I'm warming down or as I'm just back with the team after the last race, because you put so much time and effort into that year, that 3 years, that 4 years, that then it's all over and you can kind of take a deep breath. And it's a funny story. This past summer in Paris, my coach, Coach Nesty, he said to me before I started warming up for my last race, the 800 final, he said to me, "You're going to swim the race, and then, Katie, you're going to warm down." And most swimmers don't warm down after their last race of their last meet of the season. And so he said, "You're going to warm down." I said, "Okay, I'll warm down. It always feels good to warm down. But, why are you telling me this?" And he said, "Katie, I read your book, and you talk about this. You talk about how you didn't warm down last year after World Championships, so you're going to warm down. That's going to be the end of the season, and then when it's time to think about the next thing, we'll think about the next thing." But and I really do kind of feel like that helped me because I could warm down, I could feel any emotion I wanted to during warm down, and I had the medal ceremony, and then I've just been enjoying things ever since then, and it's been a lot of fun to be with my family, be with my friends, be with all of you, celebrate these moments, because I do know that, yes, I have no chill when it comes to training and my focus when it's time to get down to business. So that'll be here. It's just around the corner. I'm starting to miss the training a few weeks removed from Paris, so I'll be back into it pretty soon.
Yeah, you love practice. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Most people don't love practice.
I do. I saw my teammates down in Florida, the ones on the college team, have started their season, their training. So I saw some pictures from that the other day. I was like, oh, I kind of miss the first day. Because my first day is going to be in a few weeks probably, or a month, and they're probably going to be feeling a little better. They'll be in better shape than I will be when I show up. So.
Well, we've been at this for 40 minutes. I think it's time to turn to some audience questions. Do we have those? Thank you very much. Now, I've been told I can use all of these, none of these, or some of these. What power I have.
Can you read them?
I can read them. Melanie from the Bronx here, I was going to ask this question. I think this is a great one. What is your favorite cheat meal? What is your favorite cheat meal, if you have one?
Usually after my last race of a meet or usually of the season, my favorite thing would either be pizza or a burger. After my 800 in Paris, I had an interview after that, and that was the first time I got to see my family in Paris. And they had grabbed a quick, I think it was, I don't know, some fast food restaurant meal, and they had an extra milkshake. So I did have a milkshake and some fries, probably 3 hours after the 800.
But aren't you a proponent of ice cream related to performance?
Yes. So those of you who have read the book know this. Growing up, I was probably maybe 8 or 9 at the time. My mom, being a good mom, was reading about swimming and nutrition, trying to stay up to date on what the best foods are for an athlete, a growing athlete, whatever. And she read some article about how it was either low-fat or non-fat yogurt, Greek yogurt, maybe not even Greek yogurt, just low-fat yogurt was a good snack before practice. Somehow, that turned into low-fat chocolate ice cream. And I would eat it before morning practice. So at 4:15 in the morning, it must have been, actually now that I say it, it must have been a little later in my career, probably when I was more like 11 or 12, when the early morning started. 4:15 in the morning, I was eating 2 scoops of chocolate ice cream. And it was good ice cream. It had like chocolate chunks in it, all of that. And it's funny, it's silly, it probably wasn't the best pre-practice meal for me. But again, hindsight, I think it's something that motivated me to get out of bed. And I say that with complete seriousness that, sometimes it's not about doing everything perfect, eating everything that you're supposed to be eating, all of that. It's, sometimes what makes you happy, that's the best thing.
I agree.
My mom is super embarrassed that was included in the book. And that has been included in some of these conversations because she feels like she's a bad mom because of it. But she's not.
No.
She is not.
No, she's definitely not. On the subject of things that make you happy, and this is a little bit hard to contemplate, but looking into the future, a member of our audience wonders, have you thought about what you will do when your journey in swimming is over?
Yes, I have given that some thought. I think, first off, I don't think my journey in swimming will ever be over because I think at some point I'll hang up my competitive swimsuit. I'm thinking of my tier suit. I see my Matt and Joe and Rosemary from tier here tonight. Someday I'll hang up my competitive racing suit, goggles and cap, but I think I'll always swim. I love just the feeling of being in the water. Again, I think it's such a great sport for all ages, great exercise. So that's the first thing. Second thing, I think I always want to stay involved in the sport in some capacity. I don't know if that's coaching. I think just being able to connect with young swimmers is always a great opportunity. And so if I can help young swimmers in some way, if I can help swimming as a sport in some way, whether that's USA Swimming, world swimming, there are opportunities there that I'd like to make sure that I'm continuing to be a part of. But then I think at some point I would like to have some non-swimming activities or a non-swimming job. I've considered potentially going to grad school at some point in the future. Right now I'm thinking business school or law school, but that could completely change. I also might never go back to school. We'll see. I am very much still in the thinking phase on that, and if any of you have good recommendations, send them my way.
Oh, you're going to be inundated.
I'm happy that I get so many great opportunities, even while I'm swimming, to meet so many different people, and I'm thankful to many of you in this room for being there along some of those great times, so many memories from lots of different places. New York, I mean, this is pretty neat for me, given that my grandma Berta lived here for so many years. New York, such a special place for our family. I think she actually took a class here at the 92nd Street. Why she was a tremendous writer, wrote lots of essays and short stories, was a published writer. So it's pretty special for me to be here in front of all of you, given I have so many great memories of going to Broadway shows with her and all of that. So yeah, just as I say memories, that just kind of entered my mind. I wanted to share that.
So speaking of writing, and this might be from your book agent here, but it says, you've only skimmed the surface of your life. Will there be a part 2? And there are some questions about your writing process as well. How you got
Okay.
this done, yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I did know that I was writing this book before my swimming career was over. Of course, now there could be a Paris chapter of some sort. But I really wanted to share this now because I felt like I do have so many stories over the years that I think can resonate with people. I think so many lessons from those stories, more importantly, that I wanted to share right now. So I just wanted to do it while it was fresh in my mind, while I could remember the stories, while my family could remember the stories, while I could still rely on certain family members to tell those stories. I got to visit my grandma Hagen in North Dakota last week. She's 98 years old, and it was really special for me to be able to come out with this book while she could still read it, listen to it. She listened to the audiobook. So just little things like that motivated me to write this book, and I'm very glad that I did it at the time that I did.
And what was your process? Did you write 1,000 words a day? Did you get up extra early? How'd you fit it in?
It evolved, in between practices, I got the work done. You know me, I set a goal and I work toward it. So as I talk about in the book, I have a lot of journals from my swimming career that I relied on. I have a lot of photos and emails and family history that I went through and reviewed with my family and those that are close to me. So yeah, it was really just trying to think of how I wanted to organize this, and I was happy with how it all came together. And really, in many ways, I felt like the acknowledgments were probably the hardest to write because there's so many people that have meant so much to me along this journey that I couldn't include every single one. But when I started working on that, I realized that in some ways the whole book is kind of my acknowledgement of those people that have been so impactful along my journey.
It's beautiful on that point, actually. The book is structured with chapters that cover the different Olympic Games, but then also different family members. So you'll get a deep dive on each one, and each one contributed in a meaningful way to who you've become. This is a question that I'm kind of just interested to see what you're going to do with. Is there a gold medal, maybe the one around your neck, that was more meaningful or is the most meaningful of the 9 that you've won?
No, I don't think so. I think it's hard to pick. I mean, they do engrave the medals with the event. So this actually is the 800 free from Paris, and I think I was asked that. I think I was asked that question after Rio and after Tokyo, and my answer then was always the first one, London, because there's something special about the first one. It's the first time you have that feeling of seeing the American flag lifted and hearing the national anthem, sharing that moment with your family and friends, all of that. But now that I'm through with Paris, I think if I had to pick a second one, it probably would be the 800 in Paris, just given the weight that I kind of felt on myself, again, not from other people, but just knowing that August 3rd in 2012 was the day that I won my first medal. It was August 3rd, 2024 in Paris. And it is kind of like your birthday, the first gold medal, where every year that date comes back up, you think about it. You think about that day. And again, I had always said that is the day that's the gold medal that is the most meaningful to me, most memorable. So August 3rd came up. I knew that 800 final was on August 3rd. And I was like, I can't have a bad birthday. It's like having a bad birthday. It's just so, and if I didn't get that gold, I think there just would have been this bitter taste, like a bad cake. I mean, that's what it's like. So I was so motivated by that. And so I was kind of, I think, putting a little more pressure on myself than I probably should have going into it. So just touching the wall, having that kind of relief. I don't like that. I don't like it when people say they felt relieved after a race. I hate to even admit it, that it was relief that I felt before the happiness, but there was a lot of happiness there in that moment. It wasn't even a time that I was super happy about, but just getting that gold and just all of the years that were wrapped up into that, I think made that one just very special.
Yeah, no, I can understand it. I'm told here I'm supposed to remind folks that there are copies of Just Add Water on sale in the lobby, which is an opportunity for me to say that I've been coming here a long time, and 20 years ago, there was a guy who sold books and who would sneak in and then get kicked out and sell more books, and I was that guy. I was the bookseller here 20 years ago because I wanted to be at talks like this, and now I've been all the way down the aisle on stage with a book, and what a book it is. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
Really, what a book it is, because most books by athletes don't really get beneath the surface of the process of how you do what you do, and this one does. And for that, it's a triumph. At one point at the end, you talk about swimming as a magical sport, and I think magical is what people feel when they watch you swim. So thank you on behalf of the Y, on behalf of Sue and Jen and all the people in the room for bringing that magic to the sport.
Thank you. Again, I'd just like to say my thanks to 92nd Street Y for this event, for all of you for coming out and supporting this, to Simon & Schuster, my publisher, for helping me through this process, not just the book writing process, but everything that comes with it. Thank you for believing that I could produce a book that could inspire young kids, inspire older people
Grown
as
people.
well, my grandma. Thank you for believing in me, and thank you to all of you that have watched the Olympics this past year, this past month. It's really special for the athletes when we come home to the U.S. to hear from so many of you that you enjoyed watching it, that you watched it as a family and you were inspired by it, that you started swimming because you saw us compete. Those are the stories that make us so happy. So thank you for sharing those moments with us. Really, when I'm swimming, when I'm competing, when I have that game face on, I'm not just thinking of nothing. I'm thinking of those people that want me to succeed, that are cheering me on, and I know so many of you in this crowd have done that for me over the years, and I wouldn't be able to swim or write a book like this without you. Thanks.
Nice job.
Thank you.
I don't know what we do now.
Thank you.
Katie Ledecky, everybody.